My phone vibrated briefly, then quieted. A message from Mother appeared on the display. It read, "Kinsley, you shouldn't bother coming home. Some environments are just not right for you." There was no follow-up call. There was no reason given, just those words cutting me like a blade. I kept looking at the screen as the snow continued outside my apartment, drifting down in quiet, steady layers. My coffee had grown cold in my mug. This was Thanksgiving week, the only holiday I always tried to attend, regardless of my work schedule. I had convinced myself that perhaps this year things might change. Apparently, they had already begun the traditional meal without me. I checked the family group chat. Pictures instantly flooded the feed. Candles lit, turkey on the table, wine glasses lifted. Everyone in the pictures was tagged. Everyone was smiling. My name, however, was absent. Initially, I wondered if this was an error. Maybe Mother sent the hurtful text to the wrong number. But then I noticed a photo caption that read, "Just family." That message was truly painful to see. I reread her text, scrolling back up the thread. My first emotion was not rage. Instead, a profound emptiness settled inside me, a silent void resting behind my chest that wouldn't leave. It felt like more than just being excluded from a room. It was being shut out of the family entirely. I placed the phone down on the kitchen counter. The apartment's silence was broken only by the refrigerator's low hum. City lights shimmered on the wet asphalt outside. I could easily visualize the scene. Mother presiding at the head of the table, Dad slicing the turkey, my brother Bryce telling some ridiculous joke, and everyone laughing as if everything was normal. They likely convinced themselves that I was too hard to deal with, too sensitive. Maybe their assessment was correct. I quit playing the expected role years ago. The silent mediator, the one who always smoothed things over, the person who paid for dinner and silently took the insults. I walked over to the window. Across the street, a couple was carrying bags of groceries, their breath clouding the cold air. The scent of pine candles wafted up from the building hallway. It was supposed to feel comfortable, but all I focused on was how distant I had become from the true meaning of family. I picked up the phone once more. I nearly typed a response, anything, but the words caught in my throat. Instead, I spoke them aloud, softly, addressing both myself and the empty space. "You claimed I didn't belong." I paused. "Fine." Then, more deliberately, like a commitment, "I will build something you won't ever ignore." The city outside seemed to pause momentarily, as if acknowledging my words. Anyone who has been disowned by their own family understands that feeling. The instant pain shifts into something sharp and focused. That is the beginning of a genuine strategy. When I was small, I focused on drawing buildings instead of people. While other kids drew basic stick figures, my pages were filled with walls, stairs, and windows. I never questioned it then. That was simply how my mind processed things. I loved seeing elements connect logically, creating silent structure. My parents didn't share that view. They thought my creativity was just a temporary phase. My younger brother, Bryce, was always considered the truly successful one. He would skip assignments and charm his teachers, yet he was still praised for his potential. Me, I was criticized for being too serious. I clearly recall the evening when everything changed. I was 15. I stayed up late drawing a greenhouse structure for our backyard. It had glass walls, ivy filtering the light, and a dedicated corner for reading. It wasn't perfect, but I had designed it myself. The next morning, I carefully slid the drawing across the breakfast table, presenting it like a present. "I think I could build this eventually," I said, feeling proud and anxious. Dad hardly glanced up from his newspaper. Mother chuckled gently. "That's a big goal, honey," she said, "but you should probably concentrate on something more practical." Bryce leaned over, looked at the sketch, and smirked. "Looks like a giant aquarium for weeds." They laughed together at his joke. I managed a fake smile. That evening, I found the paper thrown away beneath some used coffee grounds. That was the first moment I realized keeping quiet was safer. After that incident, I stopped showing them anything I created. I earned an architecture scholarship to college. When I informed Mother, she warned me, "Architecture is a field for men, sweetheart. You are too sensitive to handle it." But I went anyway. I maintained 3 separate jobs, slept on a mattress in a cold apartment, and survived on cheap bagels and black coffee. I believed that once they saw the degree, they might finally acknowledge me. They did not attend the graduation ceremony. Brother claimed he had a work trip, and Mother explained, "Your father's knees can't handle long flights." Despite that, I mailed them photos of my first professional space. A small, single-room studio with a folding desk, 2 computer screens, and a plant I couldn't manage to keep alive. Mother replied with a text, "Looks small but cute." I eventually learned to stop needing their approval. Even as I worked to move past it, their opinions still echoed in my head. Brother loved calling during holiday dinners, always using speakerphone to boast about his latest real estate investments. Mother would always giggle and say, "You and your brother are both involved with buildings. Isn't that hilarious?" I would force a smile and hang up, feeling the familiar ache return. That is the reality of being the ignored one. You begin constructing your entire life silently, establishing the groundwork. You place one brick after another until suddenly you recognize you have built something solid while they are still discussing theories. It only takes one insult, one final push, to reveal the true value of your silence. The point of no return happened when I was sitting at my parents' massive oak dining table, the one that had hosted every holiday celebration since I was a child. The fragrance of roasted lamb and buttered garlic filled the room, a scent that used to represent home. Not anymore. Brother was dominating the conversation, as usual. He was talking about his newest project, a high-end lounge he intended to open in Metro City's downtown area. Everyone leaned in, treating his idea like a lecture. Mother looked at him as if he had just discovered something revolutionary. I kept my attention on my dinner plate, meticulously slicing my food into perfect squares. "Hey, Kinsley," Brother said, turning towards me. "Since you're into construction, what do you think of the location I picked? Mid-city, right across from the new plaza." I raised my head. "It's a huge risk," I commented. "Rent is high, and pedestrian traffic drops off sharply after 9 p.m. You would need a truly exceptional concept to keep it successful." The room instantly fell quiet. Then Mother's voice, sharp but masked by a smile, intervened. "Kinsley, could you please refrain? Your brother put so much effort into this. You always find a negative aspect to highlight." My fork froze halfway to my mouth. I wasn't criticizing. I was merely offering advice. Brother cut me off with a condescending grin. "She just doesn't understand, Mom. Not everyone lives inside spreadsheets and architectural plans." Several relatives laughed. One relative even patted his back encouragingly. My chest tightened immediately. "I'm only suggesting," I tried again, but Mother raised her hand slightly, signaling me to stop. "Sweetheart, if you can't be supportive, perhaps you should just enjoy the food." That tone, the one that sounded polite to outsiders, but was utterly devastating inside. The rest of the people at the table moved past the incident, continuing the conversation without me. Brother discussed his imaginary investors. Dad simply nodded, accepting everything as brilliant. My aunt poured herself more wine. I remained seated, feeling small again like I was 15 and watching my drawing get thrown in the trash all over. When I finally stood up, the chair legs scraped loudly against the tile floor. The noise caused everyone to look at me. "You know what?" I stated. "Maybe you're right. Perhaps I don't belong here." Brother let out a low, cruel chuckle. "I guess that finally clicked for you." Mother's voice was calm and cold. "Kinsley, if you cannot behave like a member of this family, then you should consider not attending the next time." The words hit me like a physical blow, a door slamming shut. I said nothing else. I simply walked out, my heels clicking down the hallway I had known by heart since childhood. In the reflection of the glass front door, I saw them still conversing and laughing, behaving as if I had never been there. When I reached my car, my phone vibrated. A new text from Mother. "Do not come back until you learn to show respect to your brother." I sat in the cold car, the screen glowing in my lap, my breath fogging the windshield. That was the instant when any remaining affection finally vanished. In its place, something harder, quieter, and unbreakable started to form. For several days after that awful dinner, I completely withdrew. I didn't speak to my parents or Bryce or even Sage, my partner. I went through the motions at work, client calls, site checks, meetings. But inside, everything felt dulled, like I was moving through water. Then, one morning, an email changed everything. A large real estate group was selling a downtown corner lot. It was a wide piece of land with old brick walls from a restaurant that had failed. The location stunned me. It was the same block Bryce had bragged about mid-city, across from the new plaza. He called it his spot. I sat staring at the screen until Sage came into my office. "You look shocked," she said. I showed her the listing. "Remember where Bryce wanted his club?" She looked closely. "Yeah, why?" "Because it's listed," I told her, "and I have the money to buy it." She raised an eyebrow. "You're actually going to buy it?" I gave no reply. I printed the listing, folded it, and put it in my notebook. That night after the city shut down, I drove there. The street was quiet, with only neon signs from a diner flickering. I walked the perimeter. My boots crunched on gravel, hands deep in my pockets. The air smelled like old metal and coming rain. I saw the exposed beams and broken windows. I saw the faint shape of the old sign. I could picture the building immediately. Glass walls, hanging gardens, a courtyard full of light. A place that needed no one's approval. By the end of the week, my offer was in. The following month, I owned the lot. Construction started slowly, then took off fast. My routine was early mornings at the site. I heard steel groaning, saw the welder sparks. Black coffee tasted bitter as I checked blueprints at dawn. Sage often met me, bringing 2 cups, already tired but smiling. "You're building your ultimate response," she remarked one day, watching the glass panels rise. Maybe she was right. Every line drawn felt like deleting a painful memory. A year went by quickly. Build, work, refine. No calls from family, no texts, just the steady sound of progress. When it was done, I stood in the main atrium at sunrise. Light poured through the glass ceiling. The air was clean, bouncing off the marble floor. My reflection looked back, older, more certain, finally whole. We named it the Atrium by Thorn. It wasn't about spite, it was a firm statement. My name, my work, established on the skyline. A week before the opening, Sage showed me a newspaper. "Look," she said, "they call it the city's new landmark." I smiled, truly this time. They said I'd never be invited. Soon, they'd want to get in. The opening night felt like a new chapter. The atrium shone under soft amber light. Jazz played from a band, mixed with laughter and clinking glasses. It felt like an achievement. Guests arrived, clients, investors, friends. I shook hands and accepted surreal congratulations. Sage moved through the crowd, graceful in a green dress, managing everything. "You finished it," she whispered, giving me champagne. I was about to answer when I heard the loud, familiar voice. "Bryce!" I turned. He stood by the entrance, tie messy. Mother was right behind him, holding her bag tightly. Dad followed, uncomfortable and quiet. I thought I might be dreaming. But then Bryce's arrogant laugh echoed across the floor. "Word travels fast," Sage muttered. They were not invited. I checked the guest list myself. At the reception desk, the hostess offered an apologetic smile. "I apologize, sir, but we do not have a reservation under the name Thorn." Bryce frowned, raising his voice. "Check again immediately. This is meant for the Thorn family. Our name is on the building, isn't it?" Mother stepped forward, already annoyed. "We were informed this was a private event for family. I am Mrs. Thorn." The hostess nervously glanced in my direction, clearly uncertain what to do. I set my glass down and started walking toward them, my heels clicking loudly on the floor. The room seemed to quiet down as I approached. "Good evening," I said softly. Mother turned quickly. For a split second, she didn't recognize me. My hair was pulled back, I wore a white blazer, and my eyes were level. Then her face hardened. "Kinsley." Bryce gave a small smirk. "So this is your little project, huh? It's cute. I thought you'd stick to designing small things." I returned his smile. "It used to be small, now it stands tall." He surveyed the room, attempting to appear unimpressed, a forced confidence that didn't reach his eyes. "Well, we definitely deserve a table. We are family, after all, right?" I gave the hostess a slight nod. "Please direct them to the public seating area downstairs. It operates on a first-come, first-served basis." Bryce blinked in surprise. "What did you say?" Mother's tone became sharper. "We are your relatives, Kinsley." I held her gaze steadily. "You told me I shouldn't return. I simply upheld that promise." A strained silence settled between us. I could hear the gentle piano music in the background and the low buzz of guests trying not to stare. Bryce clenched his jaw. "Do you think doing this makes you superior to us?" I took one step closer, close enough that my reflection filled his eyes. "No," I replied calmly. "It just means I am free." Then I addressed the hostess. "If they choose to stay, make certain they pay for any drinks they order." Their faces showed a mixture of shock, shame, and disbelief all at once. I walked away before any of them could formulate a response, the sound of my heels quickly fading into the music. Sage met me halfway across the room. "They came without an invitation," she whispered. "Precisely," I confirmed. "Just like they always did." Later that night, the crowd thinned out. The music became softer, drifting through the marble rooms like a secret. I slipped away to the upper terrace, carrying my champagne glass and my heels in the other hand. From this vantage point, I could see the whole city spread out beneath me, the lights blinking like slow heartbeats. Below, through the glass roofing, I spotted Bryce and my parents still at the bar. They were sitting uncomfortably, forcing stiff smiles, pretending the previous confrontation hadn't occurred. They didn't realize I was observing them. I stood there for a long time, inhaling the cold night air. It smelled like steel, rain, and something else, perhaps liberation. My phone vibrated. A text from Sage, "You all right?" "They're still downstairs." I typed back, "Let them be. They'll figure it out." I leaned on the railing, tracing my finger over the cool glass. The reflections showed me the city and the massive structure I had constructed from every hurt they had caused. Just 1 year ago, I was standing outside their home, hesitant to even knock. Now they were standing outside my creation, waiting for permission to enter. It was truly ironic. I considered reaching out to Mother, saying something gentle, something to help her understand. But then I recalled the text she had sent me. Some places aren't meant for you. Maybe she had been right all along. Maybe that house wasn't meant for me. Behind me, the automatic door slid open. Sage stepped out, her coat draped over her arm. "They are finally leaving," she announced softly. "Good," I replied. She handed me a fresh glass, her smile warm and small. "So, what happens next?" I looked back down at the glowing name above the main entrance, the atrium by Thorn. My name, my work, my peace. "I think," I said, "I finally stopped building things just to be invited in. From now on, I build them to stand completely on their own." Sage clinked her glass against mine. "To that." We stood there momentarily, two figures against the cityscape. Then I headed toward the elevator, ready to go home. My phone buzzed one final time. It was an unrecognized number with a single message: "Your establishment is beautiful." I knew it was Mother. I smiled. I placed the phone face down on the railing and left it there for the rest of the night, because some stories are best left without a response. If you have ever had to build your own safe place because the one you came from couldn't hold you, trust me, you are not by yourself. Share your experience in the comments and hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one.